We're here because we are facing an existential threat. And I don't mean that as an exaggeration. That's something that scientists are saying, that the fate of human civilization hangs in the balance.
On Monday the 15th of March 2019, thousands of protesters descended on central London, demanding that governments worldwide take action to halt what they call a global climate and ecological emergency. For 11 days, members of the climate activism group known as Extinction Rebellion took over 5 key London landmarks with the aim of bringing the capital to a standstill to highlight the growing crisis. In order to do this, the group used what they called non-violent civil disobedience, blocking roads for 24 hours a day, along with holding stage performances, workshops and people's assemblies. During the protests, over 1,000 people were arrested whilst peacefully protesting, and it is now being called the biggest civil disobedience event in recent British history. But would that change anything? What was interesting about Extinction Rebellion was that they seemed to welcome being arrested, encourage it even, with updates on their social media channels whenever an arrest was made. Combined with the disruption they caused before, during and after Easter weekend, it has been called into question whether activists risked alienating their cause. Clearly, their civil disruption drew criticism from some, who claim that by getting arrested on purpose they were wasting police time and taxpayers' money, as well as others who were understandably annoyed at the traffic delays caused. It was also called into question whether London was the right place to be targeted, given the fact that there are countries who produce far more pollution, although as part of International Rebellion Week, cities the world over had been targeted. But Derek and Jenny Langley, two experienced Extinction Rebellion activists, are of the firm belief that forcing mass arrests is the only option left to them with which to provoke change, with other methods having failed.
We need to do something which is going to attract a lot of public attention and which is going to force the government to actually take notice, force the media to take notice, because a lot of the problem is that the media have basically been neglecting this issue. They haven't been telling the public just how desperately serious it is. And so these mass disobedience actions are a way of doing something which is different, which is eye-catching. And if people get arrested, that does tend to get picked up by the press. It puts pressure on the police and the court system and thereby on the government. But I think the most important thing is that it allows us to make a splash in ways that we couldn't do if people weren't prepared to take some risk of arrest.
They were keen to stress that they did not want to be inconveniencing people, but believed that it would be a small price to pay in the long term. They know more about the fragility of life than most, having lost their son several years ago.
I think it's important for people to realise I do not want to be doing this. I just feel that that is the only option left over to us, and I'm really sorry that we're having to disrupt people's everyday lives at the moment. And I think that's, it's a bad thing to be doing, and I don't want to be doing it. But you then I feel I have to stand up for people and wildlife and the planet that's coming in the future, and they have no voice at the moment, so I have to give them a voice. And the disruption that is coming, if you start looking at famine, societal breakdown, wars, I'm sorry, frankly, being delayed for a few hours is absolutely nothing. So I don't want to be here, but that's why I feel I have to be.
Despite Jenny not wanting to be there, some seem to be having the time of their life, although we're just as committed to getting arrested. A high percentage of the arrests were made for breaching Section 14 orders, which restrict rights to protest and assemble in certain areas, and all of them were for non-violence offences. Waterloo Bridge was completely blocked off peacefully by activists for almost a week, and had been transformed into what many were saying Boris Johnson's failed Garden Bridge project could have been. Peggy Walsh was on the front line of what was dubbed the Battle of Waterloo Bridge, but explained that it had been a completely passive affair.
There's been a lot of training with Extinction Rebellion about what is violence non-violence or non-violence. So like we've had this training where you kind of have to talk, about what you consider violent, what the public would consider violent, and it's very much against all kinds of violence, including verbal violence, kind of getting aggressive with the police. And I feel like everyone's really respecting that. Like it's one of the most peaceful movements I've seen.
Are you both willing to get arrested for this?
Yes.
Extinction Rebellion came to London with 3 demands. 1. For the government to tell the truth by declaring a climate emergency. 2. For the government to act now to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to net zero by 2025. And 3. For the government to go beyond politics and create a citizens' assembly on climate justice. However, some people have claimed that these demands are too vague or unrealistic to be met. One of these critics is co-founder of the Labour for a New Green Deal group, Chris Saltmarsh, who wrote the article 5 Reasons I'm Not Joining the Extinction Rebellion.
So the main point from the article was criticising their vagueness, and they do a very good job of bringing a kind of whole range of people together around very kind of unsubstantive demands. So they have the one to decarbonise by 2025, which is a bold, ambitious target. That's not really backed up by any kind of proposal of how to do that. And similarly, the demands to tell the truth and to declare the climate emergency. For me, that's just a kind of a reframing of the kind of existing recognition that climate change is it happens, how it's happening, it's bad, and we should probably do something about it. And then finally, their call for a citizens' assembly is a similar thing of really it's a deferral of responsibility on actually proposing what to do to a kind of mystery set of people yet to be chosen.
Despite this, the first of the group's demands has now been met, with MPs having officially approved a motion to declare a climate emergency, first tabled by Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn.
This House must declare an environment and climate emergency. We have no time to waste. We are living in a climate crisis that will spiral dangerously out of control unless we take rapid and dramatic action now.
Extinction Rebellion also caught the attention of the media, who, despite describing them as causing chaos, provided them with the publicity they craved, and through this they have seen interest in their cause surge. Upon learning of the declaration of a climate emergency, the group voluntarily ended their 11-day stay in the centre of London, although they promised that this would not be the last of them. They disbanded on Thursday the 25th of April after a closing ceremony in Hyde Park. Professor Chris Hunt is an earth scientist at Liverpool John Moores University who teaches geography and environmental studies. He observes changes in the earth and plants to detect climatic change. He's supportive of the protesters, but states that much more must be done to halt the effects of climate change, and if they don't, the results will be cataclysmic.
The cost of that will be the planet and life as we know it. So I think it's highly to be commended. My generation and younger generations have by and large failed to change the way that governments behave sufficiently, the way that companies behave sufficiently, the way that the mass of population behaves. So trying something new and different, I think, is hugely to be praised. I'm not the sort of person who goes and stands on burning barricades, but I really do sympathise with them, and I think they have a really strong point. I just hope it isn't the latest fashion and that they forget about it after a couple of years. I think they'll only be seen to be a success if there is real, genuine change in the way that our society operates. Until then, it might just be froth, and that's the risk. It would be great if government really took the bull by the horns and change the way that we operate, but it's got to be more than government. It's got to be every person, and that means all sorts of things. It means fewer holidays in sunny countries. It means not driving at the drop of a hat. It means turning our central heating down or off. It means cultivating differently in our fields. It means dropping a lot of our consumer behaviour and living much, much more efficiently.
It is impressive what Extinction Rebellion have managed to achieve during their residency in London. They have managed to get their issue to the forefront of the media and public conscious in the space of a week and a half, and there has been a surge in the numbers joining. But as far as actually provoking change, only time will tell if the government's motion actually means anything. The group have said that this protest was just a start, and if the experts' predictions are anything to go by, it will need to be.